Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of Woke by Accident podcast. I am your host, Jen, and today we have another solo episode for you. There are some interesting topics that do need to inform you of and bring you up to speed. I will be providing an update in the matter concerning Britney Griner. We'll also be talking about an update in the Breonna Taylor case and also a heartbreaking story that I do want to provide an update to you regarding Breonna Greer from Georgia. So let's go to our intro.
Justice for you and me. Justice for Mike Brown.
No justice, no peace.
After the death that shook the entire country, I decided to step up as a community activist and create a global podcast, Woke by Accident. Here, I amplify compelling news stories and matters impacting African Americans and their communities. My goal is to give a voice to the voiceless and have the difficult conversations needed to advance relations and matters of race. Tune in to Woke by Accident podcast. I am your host, Jen, and it is streaming on all of your favorite streaming platforms, as well as our website, www.wokebyaccident.net. Thank you for listening and take care.
Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of Woke by Accident podcast. I am your host, Jen. This is a weekly chat about socially conscious topics impacting the culture. The first story that I want to discuss is about Britney Griner. We discussed this before. Now, according to CNN, she pled guilty to the drug charges last month. And what her lawyers have been saying was an attempt to take responsibility and receive leniency. Well, on August 4th, the Russian court did find the WNBA star Britney Griner guilty of drug smuggling with criminal intent. And then later, she was sentenced to 9 years of jail time. In addition to the 9 years of jail time, this also came with a fine of 1 million rubles, which is approximately $16,400. And so the court mentioned that they took into account her partial admission of guilt, remorse for the deed, state of health, and charitable activities. So Griner was found guilty of drug smuggling, a crime the judge said she committed deliberately. Griner was arrested with less than 1 gram of cannabis oil in her luggage at the Moscow International Airport on February 17th. She was quoted as saying it was an honest mistake due to packing in a hurry. And so, this just really seems like a miscarriage of justice. Why such a harsh sentence for such a low amount of the marijuana substance? It doesn't seem like the sentence fits the crime in this case. There was talks about an exchange for another prisoner and things like that, and we still haven't gotten the results of that or gotten the final word on if that will actually happen. And so, we're still waiting to see what will happen. This is very fresh as of yesterday. This news being released that she will face 9 years of jail time. Very devastating. I can imagine what her family must be feeling. We did hear from the president previously that he, wanted to do something and that this was wrong. And so we, definitely will try to hold him to that and keep you guys informed on any developments with this. Just feel terrible for what she's going through over there. The rules are very different in Russia clearly. And then also, we can't ignore the discussion that she's being used as a political pawn in light of the war going on with Ukraine. So, just a really sad case all around. And our thoughts and prayers are with Britney Griner's family and friends. The next story that I want to bring to your attention is about Breonna Taylor. You may recall, we've talked about Breonna Taylor several times on the podcast. The event where Breonna Taylor lost her life back in March of 2020. The 26-year-old emergency technician was shot and killed in her apartment on March 13th, 2020 by the Louisville Metro Police Department. And then along with her death, her boyfriend was shot after firing a shot at the officers. And let's see. So there's been a significant update in this case, and we will definitely recall one of the names in this matter, and I will remind you of the significance. So, 4 current and former Louisville police officers involved with the deadly raid on Breonna Taylor's home, including detectives who had worked on the search warrant and the ex-officer who was accused of blindly firing into her home, were arrested and charged on Thursday, August 4th, with civil rights violations and other counts, according to the Attorney General Merrick Garland. And this information comes from CNN. The charges mark the first federal counts levied against any of the officers involved in the botched 2020 raid. This was a no-knock raid at the time. In addition to the civil rights violations, federal authorities charged the 4 officers former officers with unlawful conspiracies, unconstitutional use of force, and obstruction. So the parties involved are Joshua James, Kelly Goodlick, Kyle Meany, and Brett Hankinson. So Joshua James, Kelly Goodlick, and Kyle Meany were charged with submitting a false affidavit to search Taylor's home ahead of the Louisville Metropolitan Police Department's March 2020 raid, and then working together to create a false cover story in an attempt to escape responsibility for their roles in preparing the warrant affidavit that contained false information. So this no-knock warrant that they went in there to serve was prepared on bogus information, and all of them cooked this up. And all this time has went by, and they knew it. And so, in addition, they are also accused of conspiring after the shooting to cover up that the warrant was based on false information, as well as making false statements in interviews with criminal investigators. So, along with the civil rights violations, let's see, her attorney states that Ms. Taylor's Fourth Amendment rights were violated when the defendant Joshua James, Kyle Meany, and Kelly Goodlick sought a warrant to search Ms. Taylor's home, knowing the officers lacked probable cause for the search. And then the affidavit falsely claims the officers had verified that the target of the drug trafficking investigation had received packages at Taylor's address, but James and Goodlick knew that was not true. Remember, the subject of this warrant was an ex-boyfriend who did not live there. It was not for her. She was not the subject of the warrant at the time. And let's see. Also, regarding Brett Hankinson, we may remember where he was the officer on the day of the incident fired 10 rounds into Taylor's home from the outside, blindly firing those 10 shots into the home where Mattingly and Cosgrove were inside and hit her body, taking her life. Brett Hankinson was outside of the apartment, fired those 10 shots into the apartment building. Well, he was acquitted on that state wanton endangerment charges earlier this year, we may recall, and he was indicted on two counts of deprivation of rights under the color of law. And Hankinson was charged, only Hankinson was charged at the state level. Goodluck and James were said to have met in a garage weeks after the botched raid and conspired to relay this false information to investigators. So they just were cooking up all this bogus information. Now, the civil rights attorney, Benjamin Crump, is representing Taylor's family. He applauded the charges, and so yeah, that's a huge update and really a successful moment for the family. They have been fighting. I saw a video on Instagram where the mother, Breonna Taylor's mother, had mentioned that she had been basically fighting and waiting for some sort of moment of justice for over 800 days. And, she finally has that. Can you imagine? And if it hadn't been for them pushing and pushing and pushing, it wouldn't have happened, So that's why all of this activism work, even a simple podcast, a simple petition, a simple tweet, a simple email can really be significant. You know what I mean? And so this is why this work is so important, because we can really make this type of change. And then as far as this officer James, he was terminated back in January of 2021, along with the colleague Miles Cosgrove. And Cosgrove was the one who did fire the deadly shot into Taylor's home back in 2020. Him and James were fired in January of 2021. Let's see. The grounds of James being fired was for failing to complete a search warrant operations plan form and being untruthful about verifying that Taylor's previous boyfriend, Jamarcus Glover, had been receiving packages at her home. Remember, he was the subject of the warrant and he did not live there. And it's just all this information was inaccurate. And it seems like it's all coming back around now. Why did it take so long? I don't know. Maybe they had been working on it all along, or maybe it just all the pressure, and they finally were able to get the indictment and charges. So this is really great. So yeah, very happy to share that we have these charges on these officers. I don't see Mattingly's name in this. He was one of the officers that were a part of the original incident. He has went on to write a book, and there's talk of him running for some office and things like that. And it's like, this matter is not over, sir. So yeah, that's interesting. And maybe it looks like there's several hands in this matter that are share responsibility in the fault of this, and so hopefully they're not done with calling the feet to the fire and asking for the accountability for the other people responsible. It takes more than one person, certainly more than even the person who pulled the trigger, that was responsible for the things that went wrong that day. And so it's good to know that they're finally taking the steps to get the family some of that closure and answers that they needed and have been waiting for so long. So definitely glad to share that story with you. This last story is about a young woman from Georgia, Breonna Greer. On July 15th, her family called the police to assist as she was suffering a mental health episode. She suffers from schizophrenia, and she was having a mental health episode, and the family called the police. Well, the officers accused her of resisting arrest, and they took her into custody. Now, while she was in custody, she fell from the police car and landed in a. She died 6 days later. And so now the Georgia Bureau of Investigation is investigating this matter to determine what with Greer, and of course her family is looking for answers as well. Now there is a video of the incident that has been released. It is available on Twitter and YouTube. I will not share. It is. I will share that it's very graphic. I, did become emotional myself watching it because it's very disturbing and traumatizing. So she has a struggle with the police, but she didn't die until 6 days later. But the manner in which they took her into custody is basically led to her dying because she was not put in a seat belt, and the door was not properly latched and things like that. And this led to the door opening and where she was able to fall out of the car. And so looks like Benjamin Crump is representing the family in this matter, and he has been posting updates on Twitter, and I've been seeing a lot of hashtag justice for Breonna Greer. So definitely we'll have additional movement in this case as it goes along, and we will share that with you. Just very heartbreaking story. She did sustain a brain injury, and that led to her death after suffering the fall out of the vehicle. Very serious matter to fall out of a moving vehicle. And so our prayers are with the family, and we will share the updates as we do want justice for this family as well. Just very troubling incident. In that video is just very, very traumatic to watch. But it's important to watch these matters so that we can proceed accordingly when we have our interactions with the police. Speaking of which, I did receive my Pocket USA. We may recall I did have here's my Pocket USA. I'm gonna save to open it and do an unboxing video, but Brian Will Turner, the creator and inventor of the Pocket USA, was on the show a few weeks ago and shared how his invention can curb these negative incidents with the police. And so I purchased the Pocket USA, and so I will share that on an unboxing video with you guys very soon. And we may even do like a live, put it on the car video to show you guys how it works. So yeah, I appreciate you guys listening and tuning in. It really, you have no idea how much it means to me. Been doing this podcast for going into this second year here. And so just really appreciate the support. And we, definitely want to make a difference. So I appreciate it again, and you guys take care. Please reach out if you have ideas. I'm working on some great show ideas and additional guests to share. So please stay tuned, and you guys have a great one. Take care.